China's Jurong Rover has revealed groundbreaking evidence suggesting that liquid water has the potential to exist on present-day Mars and that life may have existed once on this hot planet. This revelation is a huge shock to the whole world. Hello everyone and welcome to our channel. Today we'll tell you about the discovery made by China on our neighboring planet Mars. So without further ado, let's begin. Scientists think that water on Mars played a big role in making the interesting patterns on the surface of what look like small sand mounds. When scientists looked at data from China's Jurong Rover, they saw for the first time that there were layers of cracked sand on Mars. Based on these results, it seems that Mars was a salty and wet place as recently as 400,000 years ago. Since May 2021, when the rover arrived in the northern hemisphere of Mars, it's been rolling close to 4 nearby crescent-shaped dunes in the Utopia Planitia region to find out what's on the surface of these dunes. The wind made the 4 tiny geological structures, and they're all covered with thin crusts and ridges that are cracked everywhere. Between 1.4 million and 400,000 years ago, small spots of modern water melted and caused these crusts and ridges to form. This means a more recent time in Martian history. Chen, a scientist at the Chinese Academy of Sciences in Beijing and an author of the new study, told Space.com. Scientists thought for a long time that there was a lot of liquid water in the early marsh about 3 billion years ago, but because of big changes in the climate, a lot of it turned into ice, which is now stuck at the poles, leaving most of the world dry. The sand dunes that Zhurong looked at were near where it landed in the northern part of the planet. They were between 15 and 30 meters long. They stood about 1 meter tall. It was a long way to get to the North Pole. The most recent discoveries, made by looking at photos and data brought home by Zhurong and its companion orbiter Tianwen-1, show that large amounts of water from the planet's freezing polar regions drifted to lower latitudes and settled on top of the Utopia Planitia dunes a few million years ago. Zhurong and Tianwen made these findings. When it got close to its target dunes, the Jurong Rover's laser-induced breakdown spectrometer instrument called Mars Code zapped sand grains into millimeter-sized pieces. These dunes are small compared to the huge 2-story ones that the Curiosity rover looked at elsewhere on Mars. The sand mounds Zhurong is after are much smaller. Based on their chemical makeup, they were found to have wet minerals like sulfates, silica, iron oxide, and chlorides. According to the team that did this study, these minerals formed during the late Amazonian period on Mars when there was water at low latitudes. Scientists had thought that this time period was completely dry. Researchers say that a few million years ago, when the planet's polar ice caps made a lot of water vapor moved from the poles to the lower latitudes like Jurong's spot. This happened because Mars was tilted in a different way, making its poles face more straight toward the sun. Jurong's spot is closer to the equator than the poles of Mars. According to the latest study, the cold temperatures on a tilting globe caused the floating water vapor to condense and fall as snow far from the poles. Mars' tilt changes over a 124,000-year cycle, so this offers a replenishing mechanism for vapor in the atmosphere to form frost or snow at low latitudes, where the Jurong Rover has landed, Chen told Space.com. But no water ice was detected by any instrument on the Jurong Rover. Instead, salts in Martian sand dunes warmed the snow that had fallen and melted it enough to make salt water. This is similar to how salting roads after a storm on Earth melts frozen spots. Researchers said that the process also made rocks like silica and iron oxides, which Zhurong saw. On the other hand, the salt water didn't last long. The highest temperatures on Mars are between 5 and 6 a.m., so the salt water evaporated, leaving behind salt and other newly formed minerals that seeped between the sand grains of the dune and glued them together to make a crust. The crust that formed on top of the dunes, which is about 0.5 inches or 1.25 centimeters to 3 inches or 7.6 centimeters thick, probably formed in as little as a year, since the loose dunes would not have stayed in place long enough for the crust to harden over thousands of years. It then cracked as high temperatures dehydrated it so much that they should be hard and resist wind erosion, Chen said. The phenomenon was documented at one site, but it should be applicable to a fairly large fraction of Mars' surface at similar latitudes. Manasvi Lingam, an assistant professor of astrobiology at the Florida Institute of Technology, told Space.com. Since Zhurong, which is now being suffocated by dust-covered solar panels, found water activity on top of and inside salty Martian dunes, The researchers of the new study suggest that future missions look for salt-tolerant microbes like the brine shrimp or pickleweed that live in Utah's Great Salt Lake. More than 3 billion years ago, Mars had rushing rivers and huge lakes that could have supported bacteria and other early forms of life. But since that glorious time, most of the planet's atmosphere has been lost, turning it into a dry husk whose surface is open to very dangerous radiation. NASA's Curiosity rover showed that Mars used to be able to support life. Now, Curiosity's replacement, Perseverance, is looking for dirt samples that may contain old signs of Martian life. Previous missions have given us information about Mars' ancient past, but Zhurong just found out that the planet may have had wet times in the past. Since its arrival on Mars in 2021, Jurong has moved a little more than a mile through an area called Utopia Planitia. However, it's been inactive for about a year because it was put to sleep to protect it from winter weather and a big sandstorm. Is there liquid water on the surface of Mars right now? The study's lead author says this question is very important for understanding how the climate of the polar ice caps has changed recently, as well as whether or not there could be life on Mars according to the study. We report crusts, cracks, aggregates, and bright polygonal ridges on the surfaces of hydrated salt-rich dunes of southern Utopia Planitia, approximately 25 degrees north, from in-situ exploration by the Jurong Rover, the team announced. Wind and CO2 frost processes can be ruled out as potential mechanisms. Instead, the involvement of saline water from thawed frost and snow is more likely the cause. Even though NASA's now-defunct Phoenix lander could see water vapor from the North Pole of Mars, evidence of water at lower latitudes has been hard to find until this recent finding. As Zhurong moved across the surface of Mars, it took pictures with its navigation and terrain camera (NATECam), multispectral camera (MSCam), and Mars Surface Composition Detector (MarsCode). These pictures helped show how the rocks around it were made. Researchers warned that Zhurong's images aren't very clear and that other unexpected processes could be behind some of the results, as the study says. Still, it looked like natural features on the land, like cracks and ridges, had been made recently by the flow of water. The group thinks that this polar ice quickly melted into salt water on the ground at low latitudes, which caused the chemical traces and geological forms that Zhurong saw. This method is especially interesting because it seems to show that large parts of Mars are often open to liquid water. Extremophile creatures might still be living on Mars, according to a new study. Most efforts, on the other hand, are focused on finding fossils of life on Mars from the past. The team said, "Our findings provide useful clues for designing future exploration strategies for Mars rovers. As saline water once existed at various latitudes on the surface of Mars, priority should be given to salt-tolerant microbes in future missions searching for extant life on Mars." That's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and comment down your thoughts on this topic, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.